ผู้ชมคะตอบโจทย์วันนี้จะคุยเรื่องบทบาทของศาสนากับกระบวนการสันติภาพนะคะในห่วงเวลานี้ที่กำลังเต็มไปด้วยความรุนแรงการสู้รบและการประท้วงในพื้นที่ต่างๆอดไม่ได้นะคะที่ผู้คนจะต้องถามถึงบทบาทของศาสนาและผู้นำศาสนาว่าจะต้องเข้ามาเยียวยาหรือว่าฟื้นฟูสภาพจิตใจของผู้คนและช่วยลดความรุนแรงอย่างไรนะคะวันนี้ค่ะแขกรับเชิญของตอบโจทย์นะคะเลขาธิการศาสนาเพื่อสันติภาพค่ะดร.วิลเลียม เวนดนะคะทำงานเยียวยาโดยใช้ศาสนาเป็นตัวขับเคลื่อนถึง 90 ประเทศใน 5 ภูมิภาคค่ะ Hello, thank you, Dr. Bentley, for joining me in ตอบโจทย์
That's very nice to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Your organization, Religions for Peace, what's the role of religions to create peace at this juncture in the world?
Well, first of all, religions have positive notions of peace. Peace isn't just the absence of conflict. Each religion, Buddhism, Islam, Hinduism, Christianity, all the religions have a comprehensive notion of human well-being. And this can animate men and women all around the world in terms of profound values, profound commitments for honesty, for justice, for caring for the other. Now that has to be translated into concrete problem solving. But the first step is to say religions really are about a positive understanding of peace.
How can you communicate to protesters to stop their anger, or how can the religion play the role?
The best communicators in each religious tradition are the leaders of that tradition. So the best communicators for the Islamic community are the Islamic leaders. Now those leaders are in dialogue and in partnership with Buddhists, with Christians, with Muslims, with Americans, Europeans, Africans. We're all coming together. So although it's true, this was a very regrettable insult to a great religion. And American religious believers would reject that. Don't do that. Importantly, religious leaders are able to communicate about this together across countries, across religions, and to build a common stance. No religion should be insulted. This is a standard that all sincere religious believers should take.
For the start, this kind of movie or film shouldn't be produced at all.
Well, personally, I think it shouldn't be produced. And personally, I don't think people should use angry words or bad language. However, in the American culture and in many, many cultures around the world, we protect the right of people to speak as they wish. Now, that's because freedom is respected so deeply. We pay a price for that because a few people abuse that freedom and use that freedom to do things which are very hurtful to other people. So we thoroughly try to unite the religious communities across all countries to have a common standard. Let's not insult each other.
But at this juncture, how can those people who have hatred, anger, stop and listen to religious leaders? How can they have that first stage in communicating with protesters?
Part of your question shows that we don't have enough dialogue. Those people are angry, frustrated. A few of them actually killed people, right? We don't know the full story of that. Religious people would also agree that killing and destroying other people's property is wrong. So we have a lot of work to do. The answer to shape your question, re-say it, it's that we don't yet have enough dialogue, and that people in many countries in the grassroots still haven't personally met a man or a woman from a different religion. They don't have a friend. They didn't realize there's a family just like me. And that in every society there are people who misbehave, misuse their freedoms. So there's much more work to be done, but I'm happy to say, for example, in the meeting that we're here in Thailand, there will be a deep and easy consensus on these 2 points. Let all of our religions teach their believers not to insult each other, and let all of our religions teach their believers not to kill each other if they feel insulted. These are both terribly important.
You are also an advisor to President Obama. What will be your recommendation in this case in order to deal with this current tension?
Well, Mr. Obama, of course, represents the American people. I don't advise him. I advise him as an international figure representing believers in all kinds of countries. But Mr. Obama's basic stance follows those same 2 points I mentioned. Of course, he condemned the killing of an American ambassador and 3 other people and the destruction of property. At the same time, while saying that this is unacceptable to kill people, we don't kill over this, at the same time he regrets and publicly states this is a misuse of freedom, and behind the scenes I know from my own observation that Mr. Obama, President Obama, and his entire team work diligently to get religious leaders to persuade such small groups that this is not an appropriate way to behave.
11 years after 9/11, do you think the world is a safer place? And what's the role of religions in it?
Well, I think many people before September 11th were not persuaded that religion was so central in international affairs. Go back just a decade before that, in the middle of what we called the Cold War, and religion was rather buried under the political thinking of that time. It was not a central actor. After September 11, even people who are not particularly religious have begun to realize that religion is of central importance. And of course it is. Anything that has such direct access to the majority of the human population is just of enormous importance. So what's happening, and what follows really from your question, is states are beginning to recognize they need to build partnerships with religious communities. States are different than religious communities, but partnerships between states and religious communities for problem solving can be terribly important. That understanding is growing and growing these days.
I'm wondering, as an American and as religious leader who have to work and advocate for different faiths among different believers all over the world, do you feel it's harder for an American to communicate with American people because they have lost a lot as well from 9/11?
Well, it's a very big population, so it's about 300 million people, and so you have all sorts of views in such a country, a big country. But I would say that the religious leaders in the United States, the great majority of them, heads of religious communities, right down to the local small towns, they are getting to know each other. They're not debating their different doctrines. They're putting problems at the center of the table. What can we do together to solve this challenge in our community? So they're all learning very quickly about...
Do you also have to question foreign policy of the U.S. government?
Sure. That's a great freedom that the U.S. Political system gives its citizens. And religious leaders very frequently stand up and criticize their own country's policies out of a love and respect for their country. That criticism is not seen as hatred of being an American, but as exercising the responsibility of being an American and holding your own government to the highest standards. So this is vitally important. You'll remember that we had a terrible problem of racism in the United States. Religious leaders were at the very front line of challenging laws, of challenging all sorts of conventions, and they were arm in arm united in that struggle. That's a great tradition that is in the American society. I'm very proud of it. I think the religious leaders are contributing greatly in that way.
11 years ago, social media wasn't this widespread.
That's right.
After the attack, we can watch the news
That's right.
internationally. But with the current protests,
That's
people
right.
can just watch from YouTube, from
That's
the
right.
internet.
That's right.
What's the role of social media, which is leading to perhaps destructive path of different religions in the world? What do you see its role?
Well, first of all, I think we can say social media is an incredible invention for all of us. We all have access to so much more information. And we can use our own camera and record something, and within an hour it's available to the world. Think of the people in Syria right now.
Yes.
They're under terrible siege, and yet they have little cameras, and their films are on the worldwide internet within the hour of something happened. So that we should all be deeply grateful for. On the other hand, one or two people, 5 or 6 people, can make a little film that gets more attention than all of the religious leaders, the major religious leaders talking, governments talking, sincere people talking. So the social media can distort people's experience of what a whole country is talking about. It's actually a whole 3 or 4 people, not a whole country. And yet this becomes the central focus of deep hurt, of anger, of rage, and so forth. So we need to sort that out. We need to capture the positive strengths of the social media, but not become victimized by the ability of 2 or 3 people to make a film that is so insulting and appears to be in the name of a religion or of a country.
Should it be blocked all over the world at the moment, the clips of the film?
There's no global authority that could block it all over the world. Individual countries have their own standards on this. They vary greatly. This is debated in the United States, but there's a very strong desire to fundamentally keep it open because there is a great respect for the need for people to be able to say what they wish to say. So other countries have other policies. I think we should trust that not one size fits all, but we do pay the price for freedoms. And that price is that people can abuse those freedoms. So we have a saying, I totally disagree with you. I'm insulted by what you say, but I will fight for your right to say it. See, that's a formula that we often hear and many people understand. That's a formula not understood in all cultural contexts, and so that's part of the misunderstanding that's underway.
You come here to Thailand to discuss how to promote the role of religions to promote peace process in the south of Thailand. And you have experience in Sri Lanka, in Indonesia, Iraq, Ethiopia. What is the most difficult thing to overcome in order to achieve peace process that Thai people can learn from you?
Well, the first challenge in when there's violent conflict, when the camps have become separated from each other, no longer in contact with each other, each one experiencing its own suffering, having a narrative of its victimhood, right? And this one has something similar going on. So that's a very dangerous situation. And every negative experience can drive them further apart and let the hardliners on both sides rise to the top. That's the cycle of separation and greater hostility.
That's not good. I understand that in the south of Thailand, religious leader from Buddhism, Islam, try to come together and cooperate and try to work out, but it seems the violence still quite happen. What should be their prolonging attempt in order to pursue peace process? Carry on talking, getting more people to talk, to engage with dialogue?
Well, you really never have enough dialogue. The danger is when the dialogue stops, and that's what I meant. They get further and further apart. And remember, every conflict has people within the conflict who are more ready for reconciliation or more ready for hardline positions, right? The job is to empower the moderates and help them reach across the divide to the other group on both sides. Now, that's where the religious leaders can, not always, but they can be extremely helpful. But even more fundamentally, when the hurt within a community is so deep, right? People have been killed. In some parts of the world, people have been abused in unspeakable ways. So there is such a deep hurt, and just above that hurt is such a deep rage and even revenge, feeling for revenge. So how is this population going to be healed? You can even have a peace agreement, but if the populations are trapped in unhealed injury and hurt, the little piece of paper that's the peace agreement, even if it's a good one, probably won't hold for very long. So there's the need for deep communal healing, deep reconciliation. And again, the religious communities have a grammar of reconciliation, a grammar of having to admit faults. We were wrong, or forgive the unforgivable, forgive anything. So again, the religious communities have their own experiences. They are not a substitute for good governmental processes. These are essential, but they can be parallel processes and bring much to the overall healing of societies.
You had experience in Sri Lanka. It's nearly achieved peace process,
right.
but not 100%.
That's right.
What happened?
Well, when you say it's not achieved, you're very accurate. The peace process is not achieved until the people feel peace, right? Until the people feel peace, the communities feel peace. So we're happy that the fighting has stopped. This is a big step. We're happy that the fighting has stopped. But the long work of ensuring that the different communities feel a sense of being honored, of being socially included, and of having a sense that the sufferings that they have endured are understood, acknowledged, and in some way they can open themselves to being healed and to going on to the next step. You know, the famous example was South Africa with the Truth and Reconciliation Committee. When so many people have committed so many hurtful things to other people, you can't put everybody in jail. You need a process, and it wouldn't be possible, it wouldn't be appropriate. You need a process where the society itself can hear the other members, all the members, about how they were hurt. And being understood that you were hurt is the beginning of the reconciliation process. Now in South Africa, President Mandela took the top leaders of Religions for Peace South Africa and brought them into the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. So many states have recognized whether it's done independently by the religious leaders themselves or they join others in the government Truth and Reconciliation Commission, we better make sure to include religion.
Thank you Dr. William Wentley for joining me in ตอบโจทย์
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you.
และเป็นเสียงสะท้อนนะคะจากผู้รู้ในการทำงานใช้ศาสนาเพื่อส่งเสริมสันติภาพมาแล้วทั่วโลกนะคะกับเหตุการณ์ที่กำลังเกิดขึ้นในประเทศไทยนะคะอาจารย์ก็เน้นว่าทุกฝ่ายจะต้องมีการสะท้อนได้โอกาสสะท้อนความต้องการของตนเองนะคะเพื่อที่จะร่วมกันทำงานไปสู่สันติภาพค่ะทั้งหมดคือตอบโจทย์สำหรับคืนนี้ดิฉันณัฐฐา โกมลวาทินสวัสดีค่ะ